On today's episode, Ben and I sit down with Michelle MacDonald. Originally from Prince Edward Island, Michelle intended to become a veterinarian when she first entered university. However, after bouncing around several different areas and realizing that she wasn't pursuing what she was passionate about, Michelle decided to switch things up and live life on her terms. With a lot of hard work, Michelle created the gourmet food business Buttered Bliss. Her passion and enthusiasm has led to a lot of early success, and the future couldn't look brighter. Listen in as we go through it all.
I was the same old me with the same old blues. I was the same old me with the same old blues. I was the same old me with the same.
Okay, so we're back for another episode of Brand New View. It's our 9th episode. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing well.
He's still here.
We're
very excited for Michelle MacDonald to join us. How you doing, Michelle?
I'm fabulous.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hailing all the way from Morel, PEI.
Yeah.
It's good to know. Hey, the 2-on-1 right now.
Small town, yeah.
Blue Nose are here. That's fine. Down. What is it?
Strength in
Down
numbers.
east, upper north side. I don't
Down
know.
east. up
Definitely,
west.
yeah,
Down
definitely
east.
down east.
Down east. Very cool. What was it like growing up in small town Morel?
People always ask me that, and I always feel like I don't know how to properly answer it because it's all I ever knew, you know what I mean? Like, people will always compare that to living in a bigger city. Like, what did you do? You must have been so bored. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, it's all I knew, so...
That's a great answer.
Yeah, like,
point.
I don't
That's
really
a
have
really good
much to,
point.
like, compare it to, but I loved growing up in a small town, especially when I was younger. Like, we just had this really small group of friends that we always played with. We were, like, the typical... what do you call us now? Millennials? Like, the pre-millennials. We just played outside. We would go to town. That was like the big thing that we did. Go to town. You know.
You come to visit us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. To do like anything big, which big is qualified as like going to the movies or going to the shopping mall.
Yeah, the Zellers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Sellers. Haven't heard that name in a long time. So yeah, you grew up in small town Morel, as you said, and a small quaint community, and a small group of friends that you had for majority of your life.
Yeah.
And did you kind of follow them to university, or did you head over? I mean, a lot of Islanders I know come over to Halifax for university, but did you go a different path? Stay on the island, perhaps?
Yes. So I feel, I definitely was still inside my very shy box, I would call it. I hadn't really like come out of my shell at that point, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, or at least what I thought I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do, I guess I can just say it, is I wanted to be a veterinarian. So PEI has one of the best veterinary schools in
I have heard that.
like the
Yep.
world, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. There's only, I believe, 2 or 3 in Canada. So I was like, why not just try to go to school here? And again, like, I don't know if it's just from being from a small town or whatever, but it was so close to my family and my friends, and all my friends were staying on PEI to do their education as well. So it just seemed like a really good fit for me. And I don't know, I didn't even really play with the idea of going somewhere else. And I still kind of think that was rooted in like the mindset that I had at that time. Like, my perspective wasn't very wide on like what my options were. You know what I mean? When I was in high school, even back... Like, so in Morel, we start high school in grade 9. I know that's not, like, the typical.
Okay.
Like, I think it normally starts at grade 10, right?
Yeah.
So we go
It's
from...
different everywhere.
I didn't realize it was 9, 10, 11, 12.
It is because I think it's just such a small place. So we do 1 to 8, and then we do 9 to 12.
So
There's
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 no
no
junior high.
need to have 3 schools.
Yeah, that's
Because the 9 to
just-
12 is only like 300 people. So what would the middle school be?
Why wouldn't
like
they just do a
15?
P to 12?
Yeah.
Put everyone, the whole community
Because you
together.
can't have grade 12s and grade 1s in the same school.
And that was a
They've
real
done that.
discussion that
Really?
I think happened whenever I was younger. So I would say probably in around grade 9 when I got into high school, and then it was like, okay, whoa, I'm in high school now, and I have to really start figuring out like what I want to do with my life, especially because like in Canada in general, like the things that you take in high school, they kind of dictate like what you can do in university. So there's prerequisites and stuff like that. And I just felt kind of pressured to really decide what I wanted to do with my entire life, which I feel is such a big thing for someone who's like 15, 16 years old to really decide on.
Yeah.
And with that said, some people have such a clear vision of what they want to do, like from when they're a small child, and that's so cool. But some people are also very lost, and they haven't really got to like delve into that or dive into that. So I would just say, yeah.
It's weird to see. I mean, coming from me at least, I was one of those people that felt kind of lost, or at least didn't see a clear path or goal. Or there's other people that just were like, head down, I know what I'm doing, we're going for it. Where it was like, I have some questions.
Yeah. Pause.
Yeah.
I really noticed it in university.
Yeah.
That was my first
totally,
experience of
yeah.
it. We'll let you get back to the high school journey, but I noticed it in university when everyone was picking like a major, like, oh, I wanna study accounting, or I want to be a lawyer, or I'm gonna major in economics. I was like, geez, I just want to pass.
You're like, man,
I
I don't know.
I just
And
want
then
to finish.
And I think it's like an enhanced version of like what you have in high school. Like in university, it's like those feelings, but times 100.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely felt that way in in high school. I feel that I've always been a really like motivated person, and I always think about like growing up, it was myself and my brother, and with my parents, and they always say like they never had to really push me to do anything. Like I always would do all my homework and like do all that stuff and get everything done, and I always had good grades, whereas my brother, they would have to like force him to do stuff, and that's just like the difference in our personalities. But even being that way, I just felt like I just wanted to be successful, but I didn't even know like what I was doing. I just knew like, okay, well, I'm in this and I have to study and I have to go get good grades, but like to what end, or like what am I going to do with this? I don't know. I just want to be successful and I want to grow up, and I know
I got to do this, but I don't know why.
Yeah, and I had this picture in my head like, okay, so like this is a timeline and this is how we live our lives, and we kind of like go to high school and we decide what we want to do, and then we hopefully get a scholarship or something, and then we go to university and we study, and then we leave university and we get a job, and then as a female, I was also feeling like, okay, and then I'll get married, and then I'll like start a family, and I'll be able to support my family because I'll have a good job. So that's always how I thought about it, and I always, this is kind of on a tangent, but I've always wanted to be a mom as well. Like that's another conflicting thing I think I saw or I felt growing up, is that everyone seemed really passionate about being a doctor or being a lawyer or having some kind of trade or something, where I was like, I just want to be a mom. I had like a really strong emotional connection to that. I don't really know why, but
did you feel like you were an outcast because of that?
I definitely felt like outside of the crowd, but I never really like told anybody that or expressed that at all. I just kind of let that go, or like repressed it. Is that the word?
Suppressed.
And
Yeah. That checks out.
Repressed?
Repressed.
Is that the word?
Suppressed.
Yeah.
Suppressed.
Suppressed.
They could be all very similar.
Google it.
Or we may just have no
I think
idea.
suppress is pushing
Mello, can
down
you check
and
the Google?
repress
I
is
agree
pulling
with
up.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
We know
those
what we're
feelings.
saying, yeah.
Yeah. I just kind of was like, I just pushed them to the wayside, and I was like, well, I got to get a good job. I got to go to university. This is like what we're doing. So, I just felt compelled to like choose something. I always loved animals. I was really passionate about animals growing up. So I was like, I'll be a veterinarian. Sounds like a great idea. So I started working on that. I knew everything that I had to do to like get into pre-vet studies and stuff like that. And I worked really, really hard all through high school. All my friends were also, I guess you surround yourself with similar people. So they were all also people who were like very motivated. They wanted to be like doctors or nurses, stuff like that. And so we all, we had fun, but we all got like really good grades. We graduated. I think I got some small scholarships. A lot of my friends got like full ride scholarships. So yeah, it was awesome.
There you go.
Yeah. A lot of us ended up going to UPEI, and
You made that trip in from Morella
what?
every day?
No, I made the move. I made the big move. As soon as I was 18, I was gone from my
Into the big
household.
city.
A little place called Brown's Court.
Not even. I think I was too quiet or something. But I moved
funny.
to the big city of Charlottetown.
Mm-hmm.
And I started going to university. That was like the freedom that I wanted, I think. It's like as soon as I graduated, I was like, I'm moving out of here. It was a big move for me, but really it was 30 minutes west to Charlottetown.
But like relatively a huge move.
I suppose. And just like leaving your parents' house, I guess, is always like the kind of like the biggest move that teenagers make. I started university, and I can say that like from the beginning, I just felt so out of place there. And I just felt so, yeah, I don't know. I guess the best way to say it is like I just felt so out of place. And I was excited to be there because it was like a new chapter, and I felt there's so much like freedom associated with it. Like I was living on my own now, and I was going in at least like it was a little bit more concentrated. Like I was studying all things that I was at least going to use to like get to this end goal instead of studying like math. Like I didn't want to learn math.
Totally
like I at least felt like I was making progress, I guess you could say, like towards being successful.
Yeah.
I say that in quotations because I think that my idea of like what is considered successful was like it was so small.
Yeah, it's very narrow.
Yeah. So
Same.
yeah, for you guys as well.
We were, yeah, I mean, very traditional upbringing in the sense of, school, university, get a job, get married, live a fun life.
Yeah.
And that's how she goes.
I suppose.
Yeah, but there's just
Mapped
so
out
much
for us
more.
before we even started.
Yeah. So from there, I guess I'm even trying to remember now, but whenever you are aiming to get into veterinary college there, you do 2 years of like a pre-vet program, I believe it is. Some people might be like correcting me on this in their
That's
head,
okay.
but I can't remember, but I think that's what it was. And then after the 2 years, you could apply to vet school. So you could technically get into vet school after 2 years of an undergraduate degree instead of doing all 4. And that was mostly for people who had like very high grades, and I don't know, they were obviously very qualified to just proceed without finishing the last 2 years of their biology degree. So I obviously was aiming for that. I was like studying really hard, or as hard as I could. I don't know. I feel like I can never do things very well when my heart's not in it. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
yeah, and like a huge portion or a huge part of getting into vet school is not just doing well academically, but also having all this volunteer experience and other stuff like that. And I just did not feel motivated to go out and like get little internships or positions places and
Network and get involved, yeah.
yeah, like go out and talk to people and really put yourself out there. And I feel that I just looked around and I could see, and this was over the course of like 2 years, and I saw everyone else doing that. Like in the first year, I didn't do anything. I just tried to get good grades and like have fun. And I did well, but in the second year, I was like, okay, like it's time. I gotta really like do this and buckle down and like actually get some experience, or I'm not gonna get into this program. And I still just like didn't do it. And I looked around, and everyone that I was going to school with was doing all this stuff. They were getting all this awesome experience. And then I was just sitting there wondering why I was feeling like so out of place in that position. And it eventually just came to a head where I was like, do I even really want this? And it was a little bit of turmoil, but I eventually decided like, maybe this isn't for me. In the meantime, I also realized that I'm an extremely emotional person, and I can't deal with the emotional turmoil that's associated with like putting down people's pets and
Yeah,
having to like tell
right.
them about that and be the strong one in the situation. That's not me.
It's tough. I don't
Yeah.
want to think about it.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
we've
want to
had
be that person.
several cats growing up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, met their demise at the veterinarian. And
Exactly.
It's tough. Like,
And that person is a calm and collected person.
Yeah.
And in that situation, that's just not me. So I kind of realized that like it also just wasn't right for me. So that helped me a little bit. I was only 2 years into my degree, so I was like, yeah, it's not going how I thought it was going to go, but it's okay. Like I still have 2 years of my degree. I can figure out what I want to do. And
was that a tough decision to make, or at that point you were like, we're at the end here. It's time to make a switch.
yeah, I do feel that it like went on for so long, because it was over the course of like 2.5 years, that it kind of was a little bit easier because of that. But it was a hard like truth to face for myself, because I was just left with the question of like, what the hell am I going to do now? Like, and I have so much money invested into this and stuff. And
But kind of like a relationship. I mean, I'm mostly speaking for myself, but when you know, you know. Like
Yeah.
If your heart's not in it, then you're not doing yourself much
Exactly.
of a favor.
It's tough though because as humans we're a little jump by Mella there. Very nice. But as humans, we want to stick with the same thing. We're stubborn, even though we think it must be us as opposed to the thing that we're trying to get ourselves to do. I know I looked at so many people out there, and I said this earlier, just wondering. Mella was currently investigating our guest.
who are you?
But yeah, I just remember wondering why there are all these people so motivated to do the things they were doing, and I wasn't. And I wasn't looking inward. I was looking outward, and I should have been thinking, well, then change what you're doing.
Yeah.
There are things out there that will motivate you that don't motivate others, and that's okay.
It's tough too, because sometimes you even do. Hello. Sometimes you even do look inward, but you do it in like the wrong way. Like you're like, there must be something wrong with me.
That's true.
Because I'm not measuring up, or why am I not passionate about this when everyone else around me is so passionate and is, as a result, being successful. So that was a major like internal struggle that I had, which I never really told anyone about, and I didn't even tell my parents really until like years after. But yeah, I think that's kind of the hardest part of it, is thinking that it's you rather than it's maybe just not the thing that you're meant to do. Yeah.
It took me, the good part of a decade after university to kind of realize that I've said this before, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
I love it.
But,
Wait, say that again. After university?
After high school.
There you go. Do it again.
I'm not that old, folks. Ooh, getting there, though. But yeah, because you just want to, it can be a pride thing. I think it was a bit of a pride thing for me. I wanted to, get the science degree and
that's
do
such a good
something,
point.
right? And do something with that. But it just, took a while, but came to terms with realizing that I don't think I was living a life I was particularly motivated to live.
You're so right too, and you're just like bringing back the feelings for me. But I remember telling people when I was like, because especially in a small town, like everybody. So I remember talking to people, and they'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing after high school?" And first of all, if you're not going to university at all, you'll feel some shame associated with that. That wasn't the case for me, but like that's just how I felt. Like, oh, I have to go to university after high school.
All of our parents wanted us to go to it was the only way out.
Yeah, it's like if you're not going, it's like, well, what are you doing with your
It's
life?
the only way to get a job.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
So,
how are you going to support yourself?
Yeah. Seriously, but I did feel that even when making the decision that, okay, now I'm not going to be a veterinarian, I guess, that I was like, well, what am I going to tell people now? Like I told so many people, like, yeah, like I'm going to vet school, and this is what I'm going to do. And that's like a pretty, like, that's a good job. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when people think about
career.
Yeah, it's a great career. And when you tell people that, especially, and even my parents, like, people would ask them, and they would tell people, oh, she's going to go to vet school. So it's like, well, now
Pressure's
I'm
mounting.
not going now, so sorry. But it was kind of like, I guess it is a pride thing, or like, you're like, wow, there was that expectation that I kind of created for myself, or other people did, or whatever, and now I'm not meeting it. So it's, it just makes you feel a little bit like uncomfortable, and
it's tough.
yeah, I don't know what the right words are for that, but just...
You would understand it, but to the outside world, they would have no idea what you were dealing with in
Yeah.
that decision, right? So it's like, well, of course I'm not going to continue doing something I don't want to do, and they're like, well, you're not gonna be a vet?
Yeah.
Like, what? You're throwing away your
What an
whole
opportunity
future.
you
Yeah.
have here.
It's
Yeah.
like, no,
That's
like
salary, though.
Yeah. Do you realize what it was
Yeah.
doing to me if I had continued doing that?
Yeah. So I guess from there, I made that decision. There was like inner turmoil, but I just kind of pressed on, and I still had 1 or 2 years of my degree, I think 2.
Yeah.
And from there, I kind of, I remember at the time I was like getting out of like a long-term relationship, and I was like going through that like typical, oh, I just want to find myself like for like part of my life. And I think that's like a little cliche sounding, but that's really like what I was doing. Like I just wanted to try and dive into different things. And at that same time, I had become really passionate about like getting healthier and going to the gym and stuff like that. So then I was like, oh, well, maybe health and fitness is like where I want to take my life. And maybe since I've found such a natural passion for this, it's something that I could just like do as a career as well. So I started investigating, like I started minoring in nutrition, which I never did finish, but I was kind of like toying with like being a dietitian, or also doing physio. I actually ended up getting all the prereqs for physio. I was all over the map. I even had an interview for physio at Dal. And only a few people on PEI get them. I didn't end up getting in, but I just feel like that was meant to be. Mm-hmm. But I went through that whole process. By the end of it, I ended up getting somewhere in between. I ended up getting a job as a student research assistant for the federal government. So it was like,
the feds.
Yeah, the feds. As a student, it was so solid. Like, I was so happy to get it. And I was working like somewhere that it still contributed like to my education too, which is always nice to have that connection. Yeah, so in the process of kind of like thinking I wanted to do physio school, applying and not getting in, I got this job, or I had this job already with the federal government. So I was working as a student research assistant, and I was really liking it because I at least felt like I was on track. I did feel like I said, a bit lost after I decided not to pursue veterinary school. So I got a job with them, and they were like so supportive. Again, they were like, if you ever want to go into research, like just let us know and we'll help you set something up in conjunction with the university. So I thought that was really cool. And let's see, where did I go from there? I guess what I decided to do, so after not getting into physio school, I kind of decided like, hey, well, I'll pursue an honors project, like an honors research project in my last year of university, and I'll do that with them, and that way it will be like a taste of
that kind of work.
Yeah, so to see like, do I really want to like carry on and pursue a master's degree, or is this just not for me whatsoever? So I did that honors project with them. It was really great. I can definitely say though, my heart was not in it at all. Like, we were doing like crop science and stuff like that. Like, I'm deathly scared of bugs, I'm deathly afraid of bugs. And it was just like not really a good fit. But again, the people there were so supportive, and it was just a really good environment to be in at the time, I think. And I don't know, it was a really good experience. And I was just thinking, all I was thinking the whole time was, I don't want to get out of university and just have nothing to do. So it's like, at least I could come work for these guys. Maybe I could come back and work for them, or this is like experience that I could use to at least put on my resume and say like, hey, I have research experience. Like, it will just look good. So after finishing that, I didn't get into physio school. I didn't really love that, so I didn't feel confident in like continuing on, but I also like was graduating, and I still like, what the heck am I gonna do? And I talk about it easily now, but like back then I was so like lost. Like, I just had no idea what I was gonna do with my life essentially. And the idea for me to leave university and not do anything after was just like,
it's scary, right?
Yeah, it was just like,
put all that work and time into it, and
it was not an option. Like, I didn't really feel like I wanted to just go get a job after, because I knew that with just a bachelor's these days you can't really do much. And with not having like the veterinary school, the physio school, and not having those work out, and then also not loving the idea of doing research, I just was like, what the heck am I gonna do?
Now what?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so after a little bit of thinking about it, and just I guess going out to talk to people and talking with my supervisor from the past year, I actually did decide to pursue the research thing, which you guys probably know because you heard about my little bio, but I decided to go for it. I ended up just like emailing a bunch of people at university, just like reaching out. I honestly did all this just because I thought I should. I did not do it because I wanted to, and that sounds terrible.
No, I know what you mean. I mean,
oh my
We've all been
gosh.
there.
I went to school because you had to, not because
Yeah.
you enjoyed it. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There was
No, not
good
because
times.
you wanted to.
Yeah, it was just something you had to do.
Yeah. In that
A
moment.
means to an end.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in fourth year was definitely the most stressful like university year that I had, because it was the most, it was the pressure of like, what are you going to do after? I think that pressure comes from all different places. It was coming from the people around me. So even the people that I went to school with, they had a lot of plans. A lot of people had plans. They had already applied and at least heard back, gotten into like other graduate programs following their post-secondary, or they at least had a plan. So they were asking me, and I was like, oh yeah, like might do this research thing, I don't really know. And like, you know, pressure from your parents and just, I think like the societal pressure that we fall under.
Yeah, coming from all directions.
Yeah.
Like it's overwhelming.
We'll just call it pressure.
Yeah, pressure in all caps.
Yeah. All facets of pressure.
So yeah, I was just feeling all kinds of that pressure. And so I just decided to like reach out to people to see if I could just make the research thing work. Like I really saw it as my only option. I ended up meeting this one guy who worked in the veterinary college, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like maybe I can still work with animals, but not in a way that I felt I wasn't.
Indirectly.
Yeah, essentially.
You don't have to put them down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like tell people about it. But
I'm thinking that was probably what steered you clear of it in the end. You didn't want to have to tell anyone. Putting them down didn't even seem to faze you.
Well, no, but
oh, I can put them down. I just don't want to tell them.
I'm not that insensitive, no, but
I'm joking.
No, but I do kind of agree. Like just because the actual act of like putting the animal down, like at least you can internally deal with it. But when you have to tell somebody and you have to like almost try to console them, right. I'm just not the human to do that for you.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's fair.
Not built for it.
Stay away from my cat.
But yeah, so I actually, through reaching out and just like emailing different people in the university, I met this guy who worked at the university. He was like a young researcher. I did a lot of research on him, and he was like super successful, and I heard really good things about him. So I ended up meeting with him. He talked about like the graduate program. He had a position opening up. So I ended up like getting the position with him, and so it was basically a 2-year like master's program where I was doing research, and I was really excited when I got it. I remember I like called my best friend whenever I got like the final word, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing this, and she's like, that's so exciting. I was like, yeah, it's awesome. But I still felt like deep down in my soul that like it wasn't right, you know what I mean? But I just felt happy in the moment because I was like, okay, like I'm still on the road to be successful.
Yeah.
Like I'm not leaving university just like doing nothing. Like, okay, I'm with like the crowd now. Like I have a plan. Mm-hmm. So I continued on doing that. The first day of my master's, I don't think I've ever told anyone this except my parents, but I literally cried on the first day of my master's degree. And it's kind of funny when I think about it now, but I just felt so out of place. And I felt that everyone there was smarter than me, and we went into this lab class, and everybody already knew, it seemed they knew what they were doing, and I had no idea whatsoever, and it just got to me. And I think eventually I like got over that. Like my supervisor and the people that I worked with there were incredible. Like they were like the most supportive and uplifting, and like they just knew how to teach really well. They were really good teachers. So I did have a really good experience there, but the
people were great. It was just the work that
and like
wasn't doing it.
That's the thing. It's like if you were passionate about that and you went into that environment, like wow, you would really prosper because they're just like so it's such a good spot. But and they were so great even after I decided not to finish it. Like so great still, and understanding. But I would say I definitely just felt like I still did not belong in like classes there, just everywhere. Talking to the people there, everyone that I talked to when they were talking about their research projects and stuff, they were all very, I would say, again, just passionate. And they were all like, they seemed excited.
You didn't have the fire in your belly for it.
No, it was like I was back in second year university or first year university or high school, and everyone else seemed excited about this thing, and I just felt like I was like standing outside the little group of people, like, hey.
Outside that bubble.
Yeah, like, I'm excited too, I think. I don't know. So
Is this how it's supposed to feel?
I'm excited
I don't-
because you guys are.
Yeah, like,
Maybe.
that's exactly what it is. You're like, is this, like, how it's supposed to feel? Or,
Yeah.
like, why
I
am I
used
not?
to feel that way all the time.
Yeah.
I would always ask myself, I don't know if you guys ever did this, but I would always ask myself, am I the only one, or is everyone else faking it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like-
gosh.
Like, I couldn't understand. I was like,
Like, are they just really good actors?
are
or
they
what's
just not
going on
asking
here?
themselves the same questions as I?
Yeah.
Or do they actually want to be these things? And
You're
that
actually
was
on the
just
Truman
it.
Show.
Yeah. I
I know what you mean. Yeah, I felt the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, a lot of people, you do put on a face because you have to in a lot of situations.
Oh, yeah.
See, I was so comfortable not having that face up and just being
I
like,
love that.
I don't know.
That
I
was not
really
me.
don't know.
From a young age, you knew.
I knew I didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's so much better. And to be like upfront with that, and at least be able to tell your like family or your close friends. I think I just like completely held it in. I think the only person I really talked to it about at the time was my boyfriend at the time, and he was like trying to just help me or like support my other ideas, but I still just didn't take any action on them for like still years after that. But yeah, I just felt very lost, and that was the similar trend all through high school and university and my master's degree.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird one.
Okay, I'm ready.
You've referenced it now a couple times of feeling lost. What was it like to feel found? How did you know you were lost?
Ooh, that's tough. I think.
Did you just know something wasn't right, and that's what left you feeling lost? Or?
Well, yeah. Well, I think feeling lost, and maybe you don't really know how lost you are until like you realize where you're meant to be. But I think I did know like a little bit that I was lost, or I was questioning like, am I? Because you look around and you're like, everyone else is excited, and when people are excited about stuff, like you can't really fake that. Like you
Yeah,
can
that's
fake
true.
it to the outside, but you can't truly fake that. Like if you're excited about something, it's because you have like what you said, you have the fire inside, like you have the passion.
When you're
And-
excited, you're not aware of
Obsessed.
any other thought. You're just
Exactly.
excited, but you weren't excited, so you were very aware of those
and
other thoughts.
yeah, and like here's the thing about being excited and like telling like the truth.
I'm figuring it out.
Like, I'm figuring you out.
Yeah.
The thing about like, I find it's like really easy to tell when people have this like natural excitement to them, because you'll ask them about something and then they'll just talk and they won't stop. And I love when I'm talking to someone and then all of a sudden like their eyes light up and they're like talking and they don't want to stop and they're just going on and on and on and on. And it might not even be something that really interests me, but like I'm just happy that they're so passionate about what they're talking about, and that is a genuine thing that like you can't fake.
That's true.
And yeah, and I even find that when I talk about my work now, people will like say like, wow, you seem like really excited about this, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of am. Like it's just natural and it makes you really happy. And that's how I felt when I would talk to people around me. Like they would be really excited about like getting into vet school, or you know, the research project they're working on, like, oh, we just got these results today, like this is crazy, like so cool. And I'm like, oh, I just don't feel the same.
To my earlier question, I mean, I'm thinking about it now. It was a deep question, but in the same sense.
So deep.
I just.
Yes, and I went on a rant there.
No, I was just.
bring it back full
I was
circle.
so cognizant of the fact that I was lost.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how I knew.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I just knew I wasn't in the right spot. So
Yeah.
I was like,
There was
I have
always
no other
itching at
option
ya.
but to be lost, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I was just curious if you felt the same.
Yeah, I think for me it was just like a little bit more unsure. Like I was just questioning, am I lost? Like, am I supposed to be
Right.
here? Or for me, I was always thinking there was just something wrong with me. Like, why am I not as motivated as
Yeah.
everyone else?
Yeah.
So I would say the biggest, I gotta shout out my bestie, but the biggest factor in me actually deciding to leave my master's and pursue what I wanted to do was one of my best friends. At the time, so I met him. When did I meet him? Sometime in university. So like I said, like I got really into fitness and stuff like that. And at some point I met a couple of these guys, and they were starting a powerlifting club, and they're like, oh, like you're already lifting, you should try powerlifting. It's like, oh, that's not for me. They're like, you can just leave after one day if you don't like it. So I started powerlifting.
They gotcha.
Yeah, they got me. I loved it. Like I just
They knew you weren't going to leave after one day.
You sucker.
Hook. line and sinker.
Seriously. I just had like an immediate passion for that sport, and then in doing that, like we kind of just like formed this really strong friendship. And one of the guys in particular, like we became best friends. We're still best friends now. And I would say he was one of the major factors or supporters of me deciding to just leave the Masters. And I remember we would like go lift, and then we would go to Tim Hortons after. So funny. And we would sit there, and I would just like talk to him, be like all my feelings just out, and like how lost I was feeling and all this stuff. And he was pretty much the only person that I talked about stuff like that to. Like we just had we have such like a genuine connection. We're very similar humans, I think. So we love just like talking about real life shit like that, essentially. And he was like, if you're not liking what you're doing, then why are you even doing it? And he would just, I love people who are just no bullshit. Like I like to be told straight up what's up, and I can take criticism, even though I am a really emotional person. So he was that person in my life that was just like straight up like, why are you doing this if you don't like it? And he was the first person to also make me realize like, oh, I don't know.
A good challenging force for you.
Yeah, he
That's a
really
great
made,
question.
yeah, seriously, like he really made me look inward in a different way and really
So
think
important
about,
in a friend.
yeah, and really think about why I was doing everything that I was doing to make other people happy instead of doing stuff that really made me happy. And like he knew I had all these interests in baking, and I think by this point I even had my dream. Like before, when I was younger, I would say that I always grew up baking and doing all this stuff in the kitchen, but I never had a dream of like becoming a baker. To me, that just wasn't a thing that you did. You wouldn't make enough money at it. It wasn't a real career. I'm not saying that's the case at all, but that's just in my mind. That's kind of where my head was at. You know, you went to university so you could be a doctor, or you could be something like that.
Yeah.
So
It was like, aim high. Why wouldn't you? Don't worry about all the other
Yeah.
cool things that you could end up
yeah.
doing.
Yeah, so going through high school and stuff, I never had that dream of like, oh, I want to be a baker and I want to cook and I want to have my own cafe. But by this point in university, I kind of knew that's where I wanted to go, or I just thought that was so cool. And so it's like, imagine waking up every day and like going to your own shop. It's basically a representation of like everything that you love. It's your own creation.
You're living life on your own terms.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, that is so amazing. And I would look at people who were doing that, and I was like, wow, like that is an amazing thing to do with your life and just to create something. But not for me, because how would I do that? And I don't know anything about a business, and I should have took business instead of taking biology in university, and I just like piled that down.
Yeah,
like
oh well, next life.
yeah, like I have no idea how I'd even go about that. Like that's just not an option for me. So yeah, I guess where I'm going with that is that he was, by that time I had that dream, he was the one who was very much like, you're not passionate about what you're doing, you don't even like it, and you're just doing it because you want to please other people. Like, you should be pursuing this instead. And he
really gave you that confidence.
yeah, like, and looking back on it, like, now I'm even thinking
He
about
should be
it.
like some sort of coach.
Yeah, like where is he right now? Can
Dude,
we talk to him?
he's in PEI. Yeah, he's an awesome person, and so I'll make him listen to this episode just so he can hear. But
Shout out, what's his name?
all his praise, Naeem.
Naeem. Shout out Naeem.
Yeah, the real MVP.
The real MVP? No, MVP.
MVP.
God, I'm
Why
just
are you
off on the
ruining
jokes
things?
tonight.
God.
Oh,
Stop.
just put me down.
I wish I could. We've got
You
a
still
vet
have your
here.
stuff?
Yeah. Do you have your anesthesia?
So yeah, I basically, with his help and I don't know, just a lot of looking inward, I did decide I was going on a trip to Europe for like 2 months. So, and I also decided to move to Halifax around this point too, I think. I decided to move to Halifax, sorry. I just did so many things. It kind of gets lost in the shuffle of my mind.
Do not apologize for
But-
your journey. Please. That is why you're here.
Yeah, as my master's degree was coming to an end, I hadn't quite finished everything, and that's pretty common. People normally do extend for maybe like a semester or something. So I was feeling so lost, and I just talked to my supervisor, and I was like, look, like I don't know what I want to do. I was like, I think I want to finish it, but I'm going to move to Halifax. And I was like, is there any way, I was like, I just need to kind of get away. Is there any way that I can still finish this but move? And he was, again, totally supportive. Like, such an awesome guy to work for, and he supported me moving away and like trying to finish it. I moved here and I didn't finish it. Like, it was
Oops.
just, I know.
It's okay though.
Yeah, I think things happen, and
Your heart wasn't in it.
yeah, exactly. Like, I had this full schedule, like I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna work on this and then I'll go to work, and it just like, I never put the time in, and that's on me. Like, I never put the time in to do it. I would procrastinate it, and the whole year went by, and he would contact me and be like, hey, well, I'll give you even more time if you want to finish it. Like, he was the most understanding person, such a solid like person to work for, and just general human. And I just never got back to finishing it, and I finally kind of just like confronted him as like, look, like I'm just not, it's just not what I want to do, and I just can't bring myself for some reason to finish it. And at that point I was really trying to focus on things that actually just really brought me joy, and that was like my baking and stuff. And I had traveled, and after traveling to Europe, I got so much inspiration for like what I could do with building a cafe or a restaurant or something like that. And I was just, after that trip, you think it would like refresh you and like you'd come back and be like, yeah, I'm ready to finish it. No, I was so inspired to do my passion and so uninspired to do something that I felt was like kind of wasting my time just because I wasn't passionate. So from there, I just finished with that, and I moved back home for a little bit. Then eventually I did move back to Halifax, and then I started my business.
Buttered Bliss.
Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, traveling will do that. I mean, probably
Here
a bit of
we
a
go.
generalization. Ben's always like,
Here
talk
we
about
go.
a Southeast Asia trip.
Yeah, were you down in
No.
Southeast Asia? I haven't heard this.
But no, just being, it can be anywhere, but just being away, seeing new cultures, new everything, it just opens your eyes, and you're like, I want to do so much more than I was already doing.
That's the thing. And like growing up in a small place, I do feel that, and also just the way I was brought up, and it's nothing against my parents. Like, we have such a good relationship, but I just think it's based on like the way they were raised too, you know?
Very sheltered.
Yeah, so sheltered and so like.
Right? It's not like a rip on them. There's
Oh,
Marc,
not at
you
all.
use the word all the time to describe our set of parents.
traditional,
Thank
conventional.
you.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the two.
100%. And
Traditional.
so I think that my perspective was just so narrow, like we've said. And when I traveled, and even when I moved here, I just started seeing like all these other cool things. There was more people here. There was more entrepreneurs here. They were doing awesome stuff, and it was stuff that they really cared about. And they were creating things that they loved. And
You were awake.
yeah.
You were awakened.
I was awakened for real. And I being away and like seeing all the different like styles of cafes, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I could bring this back to where I am now. There's not really anything that's truly like this there, and it could be something
Sounds
new.
like there's a few ambers in your belly now.
Ooh, yeah. I'm getting excited.
So you started Buttered Bliss, and I'm just curious, how scary is it to start your own business?
Oh.
We're jumping right into the fears.
Shit just got real.
Oh,
I would say that I was so scared. Like, I'm still scared now. Like, for some reason, I'm still shaking, even though I'm really comfortable talking to you guys right now.
good to hear.
But yeah, no. Fear is something I've struggled with my whole life, I think. I'm always scared to, like, take the next step and do the thing. What is the saying? Eat the frog. Just do the thing. Have you guys heard that?
that's a first. I've never heard that.
I've heard it on YouTube somewhere. Anyways,
eat
I
the
got
frog.
really hungry for those
I-
little frog candies.
I was gonna say.
I
I
will
thought you were gonna say
not
frog
lie.
legs.
And frog
definitely
leg,
not.
fried frog legs.
Never
Yeah.
had those.
No,
I
just want
haven't either.
candy.
Act like I have with that tone, but I haven't either.
But yeah, I've never been that person who's able to just like jump out and like
Eat a
just
scorpion
skip
or
over
something.
fear and just like do the thing, eat the frog.
There it is.
Yeah, starting a business is that. And from the very first, I think I just like dabbled in it starting off. Like, I was working a minimum wage job, and I was just kind of like making cakes for people here and there. I wouldn't call it a business. I was just, it could have been a business right away, but I was scared 100%. I didn't know or just still, I think, didn't feel that I was ready to take it, or I was capable, maybe is the word, of taking it to the next step and actually making it a business and a career. So there was a while of me just like doing stuff like that. And I remember it was like, I don't know when it was, but I just had a mind shift. And I think I had started connecting with other people more who were having ideas and doing things, but they were really doing it. You know what I mean? They weren't just half-assing it like I was. Like, they were going all in. And I was like, wow, like, if this person can do it and they're starting from exactly the same place as I am, then why can't I? And why aren't I? Like,
and they were seeing results. So
yeah.
you had something.
Yeah.
And you were asking yourself these questions?
Yeah.
During?
I'm very hard on myself.
No, but like that's very aware of
Yeah.
Very honest with yourself.
Yeah.
At this point, I had grown a lot, so I feel like I was very in
Cognizant.
touch. Yeah.
That's Ben's word.
That's my word.
Cognizant. That's a great word.
Thank you.
Oh, now he's going to use it more.
Yeah. But I would say I was so aware of like when I was kind of cheating myself and not doing all of what I should have been. Especially when I started seeing other people that were the same as me. They had no background, but they were doing more than I was. And I was like, there's no excuse why I'm not doing that stuff. And the other really cool thing about like being an entrepreneur and meeting people who are also entrepreneurs is that when you look from the outside, you always think that people have it all together. And looking at any business, you're just like, wow, like they are so successful. They're so professional. That's a real business. You know what I mean? When you get to meet people on the inside, it's not to say anything negative about it, but
It's not chaos.
it's not exactly like the most organized and concrete and perfect thing that the outside person views it as. And I think just seeing that view or seeing that perspective, I was like, wow, like these people, they don't really know what they're doing, but they're just figuring it out step by step as they go. And for me, I always thought like, well, I can't start this business. I can only do this one thing because I don't know how to do it.
Right.
But then when I started talking to people and meeting people and stuff like that, I started realizing that nobody knows what they're doing. Like, we're all in the same boat and we're like, hey, what's the next step? This is what it is. Have no idea how to do that. Do you just figure it out and then you do it. And then you're like, what's the next step? And you're like, have no idea how to do that. And then you just like Google it, YouTube it, watch people, talk to people.
Figure it out
okay,
somehow.
now I'm going to do that. And then like, that's literally how every business grows. And it's like crazy that I didn't know that before, but I think there's so many people who aren't aware of that.
Absolutely.
And
They think much like you are probably thinking, oh, they've got it all together. It's all.
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's a lot of the reason I never start things is I'm like, well, I haven't figured out a way for it to be perfect, so why would I ever even start it to begin with?
The perfectionism thing,
Right.
It's a blessing and such a curse at the same time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know what I'm doing, so I might as well just not start.
Exactly.
Like,
it makes no sense.
And it's so true.
But-
Yeah, everyone's just hanging on, trying to, well, this might fit. No, okay, try the other one.
Yeah. And people are just figuring it out. I don't know. I was astounded at how many businesses that I saw from the outside that you see as a social media presence, and then you meet the people behind it, and they're just regular people, and they don't know what they're doing, and they just have people helping them. And one thing I will say about Halifax is like the community of people here who are creators and they're entrepreneurs, and they're just going out and, you know, doing something that they're passionate about. They're trying to create something. It's crazy. Like, people, you would think that someone in the same line of work as me would not want to help me because, you know, I could be potential competition for them someday. So why would they want to? But that's not the case at all. Like, people are so supportive. They want to help you. They I think maybe they see themselves in you. They were once in that position.
That's true,
where they didn't know what the heck they were doing. And so
They just simply want to give back to
Someone
try and-
lend a hand for them, and now they want to be that hand.
yeah, and there's room for everyone to have success. So, you know, like, there is competition, but in the end, like, we all bring something different, and there's room for all of us to succeed. So, like, why not help out each other and have this awesome community? And, like, Halifax is so solid for that. I would say that's one of my resolutions or my, like, goals for 2019 was to really, like, dive into the community of people more who are doing the same thing that I'm doing and really like get to know people better.
Us too.
Yeah, because
Well,
I think
you're taking the right steps. I mean, you're on the most famous podcast in Halifax.
yes.
I mean,
It's
you're
definitely not
reaching.
sick boy. I don't know what that is.
You're reaching a whole new audience here.
Yeah, but who knows? Like, what could come of it? Like, I'd love to reach out and make connections with people. So if you're listening, hit
Hey.
me up.
Right,
Let's go for
right.
coffee.
Buttered Bliss. Well, that's what's been so great is
Yeah.
we're just meeting great people and having great conversations.
For sure.
And what could go wrong with that?
Yeah, I'll say a huge what did I say? Like, just stop along the journey was starting at the Seaport Market. So that's kind of where I got my start, my true start, I would say. I was doing it for a while before that, but it was when I started there that I really started meeting people who were doing the same thing as me. They were just young people that had a cool idea. They really liked cooking. They really liked making something. They just showed up there with their product and they were selling it to people. And I feel like a lot of people there, at least who start out there, like, again, you're just taking this idea that you have, you're putting it out there, and you're like, if people like it, they'll like it. Like, you're just kind of seeing how it goes. So that was where I kind of met a lot of people where I would say I learned that we're all in the same boat.
I was just going to say, you probably had that moment where it doesn't matter if anyone likes it, at least I like it and I'm able to do it. Like, yeah, that's like a huge factor, right? Especially for chasing a passion, someone like yourself that maybe ran through 2 or 3 things that wasn't for you.
Exactly.
You still went about the school because you felt that was what it took to be successful and to have others think that you like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then ultimately found yourself in a job where it didn't matter. Do people like me or not? I'm doing it because I do.
Yeah, it's so crazy because it's like a 360. Like, is that the saying? Is it a 360 or a 180?
180. I think 180.
360
But I feel
would be
like it's
like back
one of
where
those
you
things
started.
where we know it's like accepted 360 or 180
Yeah.
at this point.
You know
It's a
what
degree.
I mean?
It's a shift.
We
Yeah.
spun around and now we're in a different spot.
It's a complete mindset shift. Whereas like, I was doing all these things because I thought that's what success was. Whereas now I'm just like, well, I'm doing this thing because it's my passion. It's what I love doing. And that
This
is
is exactly
success.
my point,
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm just kind of like rewording what you said,
Yeah.
but like,
You're doing a
that
great
is
job.
success. Like,
Right.
whenever you're doing
the
something,
process.
even like in my business now, like, or in any business that's starting up, like, obviously, like, your capital is not high. You, on paper, maybe don't have like a successful business yet, but success is just doing like what feels good in your heart, I think, and what gets the fire going. Yeah.
Being able to get up in the morning
Yeah, and
do
like,
something like that.
Exactly. Like, when you wake up and you are immediately excited to do what you're doing, that's fucking success in my eyes, in my, I don't know,
In your view.
Absolutely.
in my view. Yeah. Like,
Everyone defines success differently. It just so
Yeah.
happens that you define success with your
Yeah.
passions, which is amazing.
and the thing is, like, once you see success that way, I think, like, it's only a matter of time until you're like successful on paper, you know, like, until your business makes money, until you've grown to like the certain level that you want. Because once you have the passion behind it, like, you'll push yourself to do like whatever it takes to get there. So I think just like getting that initial fire and passion to actually start it and keep making the moves along the journey, along the plan, it's like inevitable. Like, you're gonna get there wherever you want to go. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I have definitely a plan, and
it's interesting you've got the sweet and savory route.
yeah.
So is that maybe plans for a potential, I don't know,
Great observation.
cafe
Yeah.
or a little
Yeah.
spot on the corner?
I like it.
Yeah, so I would say that my end goal right now is to have a cafe style restaurant in the North End. I have a few like cafes here that I love going, so they're like very inspiring to me. But yeah, that's like the dream, and it's a dream that's closer than I thought it was, I think, to actually like coming to fruition. So
Closer to reality.
Yeah.
Closer since you filled out that questionnaire?
yeah, like,
Ooh.
well, okay. So there's some steps I still have to take on the way, but I've never said this publicly yet. But my goal is to open a shop at the end of 2019 or early 2020. So
Wow.
that's exciting.
That is very exciting.
Yeah, that's my major goal, and at this point I've like mapped out my whole year and like the steps that I need to take to get there. So now it's just going to be like overcoming fear and all the mishaps that happen on the way there, and
You're
just
a pro with that, though.
figuring it
Right,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting
You've done
there.
it.
You've been dodging and weaving for the last,
Yeah.
I don't know how long.
Seriously. But I have so many people that come to me when I do pop-ups and stuff, or that used to talk to me when I was at the market, and they're like, you should have a shop. Like, you should already have one. You would be successful, blah, blah, blah. Like, just so much support, essentially. And so I'm getting there. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this year. Or I'm going to do it early 2020. And I just think it's going to be so great because I've been building since I started at the Seaport that first time. And I think I'm going on a tangent again, but one of the really cool things about starting in a place like that is that you build relationships with people and they will carry on and like be loyal to you.
Yeah, that loyalty.
And your product forever, essentially. Like, I have people that started with me at the market. They came every single weekend without missing one. And then now every time I do a pop-up, they come to every single pop-up. Like, shout out to those people.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Shout out
Yeah.
to the diehards.
Yeah.
I like that.
The diehard fried chicken sandwich fans, because that also just like gives me motivation to keep going. So I'm like, man, people are into this. Like, I mean, obviously what matters is that I'm into it, but I'm getting the feedback that I want. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
It's very validating.
Where do you rent a kitchen, you said? Or-
yeah.
okay.
So I run a kitchen in Dartmouth right now. I think my goal, well, I know my goal right now is to get another space probably, or an additional space or something that I can have even more frequently, because things are picking up. So that's awesome. That's not a bad
Good sign
problem to have. Yeah.
It's a really good problem to have.
Yeah. I would say for the like future plans and stuff as well, at the end of the month I'm launching all my catering menus that I've been working on like forever and just been very indecisive about, but again, perfectionist problems. But I am launching some cool catering menus. I have one like casual one where it's like all my sandwiches that people are familiar with from like the market and the pop-up stuff that I do. Have like dessert catering, and then I also have a little bit more like plated style event catering. And I'm doing a cool brunch one too. So if you're ever having like an event at your home or somewhere and it's like a morning brunch, I got you. It's going to be really cool. Lots of good stuff.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And now, just for our lazy listeners out there that don't read the details or will bother to look at anyone's website, could you take us through a little bit of what is on your menu?
Yeah, so the different menus,
Yes,
potentially.
please.
So let's see.
I meant menu as in I knew there were several
Yeah.
across the board.
Sure.
Can you? No, I did.
I know.
I looked at it earlier.
So yeah.
Could you take
and
us through your menus?
Yes, I will. And the site's not going to be up in time to meet the airing of this
Which
episode.
is fine. That's why we're walking it through.
Yeah, but it will be up by the 1st of February if everything goes to plan. So I would say I have one menu. I'm calling it kind of like keeping it casual.
See, I told you there was only one.
No, the first menu.
There you go.
God, guys. So yeah, keeping it casual. That's like my menu. That's like it's very comfort food-esque. It's a lot of like fried chicken sandwich. I have like chipotle and candied almond grilled cheese. Delish.
Stomach's growling.
Yeah.
Yes,
How are you
like-
not overweight?
I'm not sure yet. We're still investigating that. I have like smoked meat sandwich. What else I got? A little bit on the healthier side, like roast chicken sandwich, but it's still smothered in all this delicious stuff, so maybe not really. But it's just like gourmet style sandwiches. Basically, I put a lot of effort into making them insanely flavorful and delicious, really putting like a comfort food spin on it. And yeah, I will say they're not the healthiest options ever, but they're freaking delicious.
How did you get your recipes?
It didn't even have anything to do with health. It
Yeah.
was just that I would be trying it. I'd be trying a sandwich every 10 minutes.
Oh, I'm working on a vegetarian burger too. So
There you
a
go.
vegetarian vegan things, it's not really my jam, but I really want to like
Yeah,
be
gotta have the
inclusive.
vegan option.
Yeah, for sure. So
This city has really taken it upon themselves to ensure that everyone is feeling included with
Yeah.
that, which is nice. It is
Yeah.
nice. It was annoying
Yeah.
at first, I'll give it that.
yeah.
Yeah, we're just around the corner from On V.
Very true.
Yeah.
Shout out Irks.
So I'm going to be adding that on there too. Actually, tomorrow I'm testing a vegan donut recipe. So
You
I
mean
want
we're.
that. Yeah, you guys can come over.
Okay.
But
Is it Friday tomorrow? Perfect.
Perfect timing. But yeah, so that's kind of what that menu is all about. I'm gonna have another menu that's again more for plated event catering, whether it's in your home or somewhere different. Like not too long ago, we did an event at Two Crows, and we did a plated 4-course Thai-inspired dinner, and that was really, really fun. Kind of like a chef's table style thing where I, as well as Kelly, one of the owners of Two Crows, went around. I talked about my food creations, and she talked about the creations that they make at the brewery and how we like match those. So yeah, I want to get into doing more stuff like that. I love interacting with people, and like one of the things with making food is that I love doing it because I love like making people happy with food.
Bringing people together.
Yeah.
Nothing does like a decent meal.
I know, it's so true. And like the thing with food is I like being part of the experience. Like food is an experience for me. Like when you go to a restaurant, like the atmosphere has to be right and the food has to be right. And you know, like your waiter is super kind and friendly and like you're just having fun, and it's a whole experience. It's not just about like eating for me. And so I like being part of the experience, and I love like going into people's homes and like making the food there for them, and then they get to enjoy it with their guests, and I get feedback and I get to chat with them, and that's kind of a similar thing that I get to do
We
at
both
pop-ups.
are server or have been servers, so
Yeah, I'm a server
we
too.
know what you're saying. Oh yeah, whereabouts?
Yeah, at Nellie's.
Oh, no way.
Shout out Best Bar in Halifax.
Oh, there it is. My cousin actually works there, Sam Mifflin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Samson.
Samsonite, my boy.
Yes. That's unreal. Okay, yeah, so
Yeah,
listen to
that's
the
too
episode
funny.
now. Love
Yeah.
Samson. So, yeah, I'm used to being a server, so whenever I do pop-ups and stuff, it's fun because I get to like do my server stuff, but then I also get to be the cook. And then when I go pick up plates, it's like I'm asking for feedback on the food, but it's my food. It's not just like someone else's. So I don't know. It's just a cool experience. I love being right in there and being part of it and seeing how people enjoy the food. Or sometimes people even give me like cool ideas, and I'm like, wow, like I'll incorporate that into a dish or into a sandwich somehow because you're a genius.
Very cool. I like that. Always opening
Hey.
new ideas.
Did you see where her eyes were though when she said you're a genius? She was looking at me. She was looking at me.
I was too.
We locked eyes and she was like,
That's because
you're
he
a
just looks a
genius.
bit
So
more
now
like
where are all the
brain.
ideas for my menu? Like I need
Hey,
ideas.
they're coming. I just can't let Simpleton over here get involved.
No, I have a great palate. I'll come up with some ideas. My mom and
Sweet.
I will brainstorm
Yes, for sure.
together.
See, he's already calling in reinforcements. I already got this. Don't worry.
Unbelievable.
The other menus, I would say really quickly, because, you know, I like to talk, would be the brunch menu is going to be a mix of like sweet and savory. My vision for the brunch menu would be if I could set it up like buffet style in your home or at some kind of location, a venue, and we could do like muffins and pastries and croissants and delicious
Jesus, we should
things.
have the launch party later on and just have
Yeah.
Dang.
All that delicious stuff. I'd love to set up like a waffle station where you'd have all your toppings. I'll make you a waffle. You can grab
a waffle
it.
station?
Yeah, dress it
Stop
how
there. Yeah, I don't
dress
need
it how
anything
you
else.
like it.
All right,
and
let's just start setting
Yeah,
up
I'm
here
good.
right now.
I have
Yeah.
a waffle maker up there.
yeah,
We're good.
sweet. Okay, we'll do it after this.
I actually have a really good one.
Okay.
If you don't mind. I wanted to go back to your master's and how you kept pushing it off. Even when you were given extensions, it was still, nah, I don't feel like doing this. This isn't for me. Flip side, conversely, how is it with Buttered Bliss now? Do you find that it's like, oh man, I can't get away from this.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
pull away from this.
Seriously, like when I'm not
Complete opposite? or-
working, yeah, like it's polar opposite. Again, it like, yeah, like I would say when I'm not working till like 3 a.m. in the morning at a bar, I'm waking up at like 5:30 or 6 in the morning. I like meditate in the morning. I read my book. I get a coffee and then I bake. Like, that's just what I do. Or I cook, or I research recipes, or I do something related to my business, like something creative, because my mind is at its most creative, I find, in the morning. In the night, I just get really sleepy. But
You know
I'm like
yourself, though? That's
yeah.
fun. I'm a night owl personally.
Yeah, no, I'm at my most creative in the morning, and I just feel like alive, and I don't know, like I can be so productive. So yeah, it's like you wake up and you're excited to do the thing, and
How does that feel?
it's crazy. Like, before it was fun because it was just a hobby, but now it's like I get up and I do that stuff and it's work. And you know what I mean? Like, recipe development and stuff like that, like, that's technically work, but it doesn't feel like work.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
Wait.
it's strange.
Wait, is that a trend I'm hearing?
Yeah, it seems like it.
What?
If you love what you're doing, it never feels like work.
I know. And it's one of those
Should've
cliche
been the name of our-
sayings,
Should have
Yeah.
been the name of our podcast.
but it's so true. Yeah.
That's why it's a cliche.
Yeah.
But it's true, because you're always, you yourself, you're trying to find that thing, and every day you're trying to find that motivation, but it's really like your brain that needs to flip that switch. And then once you find that thing, then your brain is the engine that's just keeping
Yeah.
it going. You're waking up and it's like, hey, we found it. Where are we
Yeah.
going? Let's do this.
Yeah.
mind's telling me no.
No, we're not doing R. Kelly. We are not doing R. Kelly.
Cut.
R. Kelly's a bad time for R. Kelly. You're right.
Oh, it's a bad time for the people who knew him.
My man, he got a couple good looks.
Oh,
way
God,
back, but-
surviving this podcast.
Jeez.
I listened to this really cool thing actually once. I think it was a Gary Vee thing, if you guys tune into
Love
him at
Gary.
all.
Absolutely.
If you
love
like the
Gary
no
Vee.
bullshit side of stuff, he's
Yeah,
good.
I was
Gotta
gonna.
listen.
When
This
you were
is how I
talking about it
talk.
earlier, it's like, why are you
This is
fucking
how I
doing it
talk.
if you don't
Why
fucking
wouldn't
like
I?
it?
Why wouldn't I swear? That's how I fucking talk.
How I feel every day.
I absolutely love
I can't
Gary
censor myself. No, but
Why
he-
would you? It's
he-
who you are.
I know. I listened to this really cool thing from him, and he was talking about internal friction. So he said, when you're, and it just like goes back to what we're saying, like when you do what you love, it never feels like work. He was saying that when you're doing something just to do it because you're, you think it's success in someone else's eyes or in what society defines as success, you have this like internal friction. Like when you wake up, you have to kind of force yourself to do it and get into the groove and really like find your zone to get working on it. And it's like when you're trying to when you're trying to write an essay or something in high school and you're like, there's no words because like you just have no inspiration to write it whatsoever.
Don't
Like
care at
there's
all.
that friction. But whenever you are really passionate about something and you love it and it's what you're meant to do, there's no friction. Like you just wake up and you're like, yes, like naturally I just want to get up and I want to do the thing and I want to bake and I want to do what I have to do to further my business. And it's like, that internal friction of like having to actually kind of talk yourself into being like, okay, it's time to work now. Like I got to really get down and do this. Like that's not a thing for most aspects of this. Like,
Yeah, obviously there's times
Yeah,
where like, why the fuck
Yeah.
did that just drop on the ground?
yeah. And like, why do I have to do my financials? I don't want to.
But, yeah.
Like that's like work, you know what I mean? But the creative side of it, there's no friction there. It's just a natural desire to do it and to make it and to create it. And that's so cool. So I resonated with that thing with when he said that, and you just reminded me of that.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
Gary. That's
Yeah.
so true. And
Thanks,
it's
Gary.
fun to listen to because he's all about compassion and and just he's into everything. I mean, it's a media company, but he represents sports, rappers.
He's doing
whoever.
exactly what he wants to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's seriously like doing everything and
And
rocking it.
Right. And he doesn't care about the riches or anything like that. He just enjoys the process.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that I find it so refreshing when I meet someone a lot like yourself, similar to me, where you're okay with that idea of failure because it wasn't what you wanted to do in the end ultimately anyway. Or that was very wordy. You're
Story of my
okay.
life.
You're okay with failing at a couple things because ultimately they weren't what you wanted to do anyway.
Yeah.
So I commend you for doing that.
Thank
is
you.
what I'm trying to suggest.
It's
it's just so
I think
enlightening.
it's a journey.
Yeah.
It is. But
Yeah.
that's
But so many people don't want to fail or stop doing something. They
Yeah.
just continue to do it, or at least I think they do. Because I mean, I was like, I gotta fail at like a million things before I can
Yeah.
figure out what I want to do.
And it's funny you say that, and they don't see life as a journey. I mean, they're failing and failing at this because they want to get to this point way over in the future. And it's like, all this present time you're doing, failing on something you don't like, you could be living life, enjoying
Exactly.
it.
I know. And the one thing that I will say that I kind of wish we touched on, and we're doing it right now, is like, I think before when I would fail, I would be like, turmoil. Like, what am I going to do? This was the only path. And if I'm not on this path, where am I even going? And how am I going to get to this end point? And now when I hit a roadblock or I have a little failure, I'm like, meh. It's just part of the journey. Like, it's meant to be. And I'm so much more at peace with the idea of failing. And if some idea doesn't come about like I thought it would, or I don't meet a certain goal for myself, which like has happened tons of times in this business so far, like, it's just like, well, I just gotta do better next time. Like, I'll figure it out. And, you know, everything's gonna work out as long as you keep bringing your heart and your passion and everything to it. And
You'll find a way.
yeah.
It's like Gary Vee. I fucking love to fail.
Good impersonation.
Is that pretty good?
That's pretty good. And with the perfectionism thing, you just gotta throw that, and I'm talking to myself right now, you just gotta throw that out the door, because oh my gosh, there's so many things that I haven't done, or I've waited like 6 months to do so it would be perfect, when I could have just done it, had a few little touch-ups a month later, and then been good to go. Like,
Right.
yeah.
No one would even notice.
Oh my, exactly. I'm the only one
you, yeah.
who would notice.
You're your own worst
And you're
critic.
noticing
Yeah.
it for 6 months.
Like,
Yeah. Instead of just like, a couple
Yeah.
weeks. So if that's you out there, don't be that person. Don't be me.
I love when it
Be
becomes
someone else.
educational.
Yeah.
Please enlighten our guests. Teach
And
them.
enlighten me. Like, I still tell myself that all the time. Like, I'll be doing something and I won't upload it, or I won't finish it, or I won't send off the idea because it's not perfect. I'm like, nope, eat the frog, just do the thing. So, yeah, that's like my new mindset. Just in the past 6 months, I'd say.
Maybe that'll be the episode title. Eat the frog.
Eat the frog.
Duh.
It's done.
Hop right into it.
Oh my
It
God.
is written in stone.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll take that point to end it here for this episode. Michelle, we really appreciate you sitting down. This was awesome. It was an hour and a half. It flew by. It felt like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it went by so quickly.
We're
Absolutely.
jumping off the lily pad, as they say.
Oh my gosh, we're just taking this to a
Maybe
whole new
we'll
level.
just call this episode Bad Jokes, featuring Marc, and sometimes Bad.
That was my first one, and I intended on it.
Sure. All right, we'll leave it at that. We won't hold you any longer, and we'll see you next week. For that, I'm Marc Boudreau,
And I'm Ben Bramer.
and that's Brand New View.
I was the same old me with the same old blues, with the same old blues, with the same old blues. I was the same old.